Welcome to the Spa Hive podcast. We're your hosts, Julie Pankey
and MaryAnn, spa leaders, business strategists, and business besties who are pulling back the curtain on what it actually takes to grow a business and a life you don't secretly want to escape from.
This is where leadership meets honesty, where revenue meets relationships, and where we talk about the things no one puts on Instagram.
So, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or a high achiever who's building something meaningful, but also navigating team dynamics, burnout, boundaries, and big goals, you're in the right place.
No highlight reels, no sugarcoating, just real conversations, practical strategy, and a little laughter along the way. Let's get into it. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Spa Hive Business Besties podcast. I'm Julie Pankey, and I'm here with my business bestie and co-host MaryAnn. Good morning, MaryAnn.
Good morning, Julie. I'm so excited to see you. We've been trying to record this podcast this morning for the 10th time. I don't know what is going on. The world is conspiring against us. They obviously don't want us to get to our breakfast after this. So here we are. Here we are, Julie. How are you? Well, I know you're good. I've already asked you that about 15.
So we know we're good. We're all good. And we know that we're still talking about summer is coming. And, how do we head into summer strong? If, you've been in the industry long enough doing whatever it is that you do in an area that thrives in the summer, you can start to feel it right before it even hits. Your bookings start packing in, schedule gets tighter. There's that moment when you think, oh my gosh, am I really ready for this? And I guess it doesn't matter what kind of business you are. We talked about, our spas, especially, in, summer areas. So the Northeast, whatever areas. I mean, I even was talking to somebody out, on one of the out islands in South Carolina and the out islands in Georgia, and their peak season is summer because people come from warm places like Atlanta, to spend time at the beach, and that's their little getaway. Even though it's real hot to us, it's probably much cooler on the beach in Georgia than in Atlanta.
For sure.
So, I mean, are we actually ready for this, right? The truth is that it's easy for us to get ourselves in a mindset of spiraling or oh my gosh, it's so busy. I am so busy all summer, and then I need a 2-week vacation to recoup. And, a busy season isn't what should be burning us out. It really is lack of planning that we've identified in previous podcasts that will contribute to our burnout. So today, we're going to talk about how to set yourself up with your hiring, your schedule, your team, so that you're not feeling like you're scrambling, when it matters most. How are you feeling about summer coming? I mean, not even just work-wise, but, kids are out of school. And, that means, you have to work and entertain.
Yep. So summer, I mean, I feel like summertime for me gets a little bit busier. And I also need to be even more disciplined about my schedule and my time blocking. So you're right. So things don't creep up and, you don't get so overwhelmed.
Probably a lot of businesses, a lot of people that are listening, or a lot of our listeners, ramp up their team for summer. We were talking about in this same exact podcast, but 3 episodes before anywhere in a touristy area. So I'm, in a very tourist area, and it doesn't matter if you're Dunkin' Donuts, if you're the doggy daycare, if you're a babysitter, and you could be a full-time, babysitter on like, nanny.com or whatever. I forget what those are that you use, but the gas station, anywhere, not to mention hotels and spas that, you're probably ramping up for hiring. So
Yeah,
Marianne took a little deep dive
I did.
into some podcasts past.
Yeah, the podcasts of the past. So let's revisit this, and I'll put the old podcast in the show notes as well if you want to go back and listen to it. This is one of Julie's solo podcasts. So this was before, I came on board to take a mic. And so this podcast was Julie's top 3 interview questions. And I want to see how well these questions have aged, right? So, Julie, you talked a lot in this podcast about your 80-20 rule. Your role is to speak 20% of the time while the interviewee, so the person getting interviewed, is talking 80% of the time. So I thought that's a pretty good standard, right? 80-20. You
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure you're getting the full picture of this candidate. Now, your top 3 interview questions. Let's start with number 1. You said, what pulled you to apply to this position? What made you interested? Why were you interested about my business? So, Julie, you still agree with this question? Any
I
edits to
do.
it?
I do agree with the question because, I'm looking to see if people are intentional when they're looking for a job or just looking for any job. And, those aren't the people that, I want on my team. I want people that, or tell me up front, right? Because I interviewed somebody recently that said, just so I'm clear, I'm only looking for a summer job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking through, I could stay through September. And so, yeah, up front, that might totally work for our needs, and that's fine, right? But you want people that are super intentional, whether your intention is to just work for a summer or why you chose, the place that you're applying. So no, I do still think that that is a top question.
Love it. All right, so we're keeping it on our list. Your next one was why you? Why are you the best candidate? So this is a question you would be asking your person that you're about to hire. So I thought that this question was a little tricky. I think it's a little vague. I don't think it's one of your top questions, Julie. I think you
I
phoned it
do.
in. Let's refine it a little bit.
I mean, we can refine it a little bit, like, why are you the best candidate? I mean, I ask everyone that. Why should I hire you? Like, why are you the best candidate for this position? I am interviewing 5 massage therapists. What makes you the one? What makes you the best candidate for this position? And I think it cuts through the fluff. I think it
Yeah.
cuts through the canned answers that they have rehearsed because they think that they're the questions that you're going to ask. And
Well,
so
if
it
they're
gives us an
listening to our
opportunity,
podcast, they'll know now. They'll be
right?
ready.
They will be ready. And it helps to show like their confidence level, whether
Yeah.
it's, confidence, overconfidence. It helps give me a kind of a picture, a better picture of, who this person is.
All right. We'll keep it on your list, Julie. All right. Now, your third and final top question is what are your personal and professional goals? I feel like we can all agree that this one should stay on the list, even if their personal goal is to make more money this summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But as long as, just like you said before, as long as they're intentional with their time and they're intentional that they're applying, we'll take it. We'll take it all day long, right? We all need people that come in and just get the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so. The questions that I ask are more about like it's less about the right answers.
Yeah.
It's more about getting, and that goes back to that 80-20 rule. It's more about getting to like know this person and what makes them tick in, the 45 minutes that you might spend with them. And so it's also about alignment, right? And we know alignment is my word of the year. But are they in alignment with your business and your business goals? If you just need them to scoop ice cream, from 8 to 12, Monday through Thursday, and that's going to help your business, then that's great, right? You might not need anything more than someone that can come in and scoop the ice cream and go home and not, be a drama queen for your business.
Right.
And so it also depends on the type of business, but we're all looking for the same thing, right? Someone that's in alignment, people that are in alignment with what we need and what our goals are.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all looking for someone that's going to show up, right? Show up,
Just
show up
show
with
up at 8 o'clock.
yeah, show up with a friendly face and let's just do the job, right? I feel like at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? So now my question is, Julie, what is one question we didn't already discuss that you've added over these years? Because this podcast was a few years ago. So is there one reigning question that you want to add to your list?
I mean, no, I've always had the best questions. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think maybe something that I have added is, what does a great work environment feel like to you? Like
Mm,
what kind of environment do you thrive in? Is it a team environment? Is it where you have more autonomy? Is it like, what does it feel like to you? What would feel good to you? And, over the years, those of like people that have been interviewing as long as I have, 10 years ago, I wasn't asking, what a good environment feels like to you. I'm not asking feeling questions, right? Like, I want you to
yeah,
come in and do the job and not complain. Now we're definitely in an environment that we have to think about if we want to retain employees more than just, what we pay people. It has to be about how they feel, how invested they feel in the business, if they feel like they play an integral part in the business, even if you're just scooping ice cream. You want to
yeah,
feel that you're contributing to the success of your business, of someone's business, like you're contributing, right? And I think that inherently most people want to feel that way. I mean, yeah, there's a few people, right, it's just a paycheck and they don't care.
right,
And I was thinking recently about it, someone that I know that, just does whatever job to make money to fund, just living expenses and, external fun, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's their particular, goal. Like they don't need to, have a big career and a big job. And it's like, dabbling here and dabbling there and trying different things and having fun and, just really supporting their monthly expenses and then being able to do what they enjoy most, which is,
right.
uh,
Yeah,
is
or those people that we've talked about where this is their second, third career, right? Maybe they've had their big shining moment and now they just need something to, kind of feed the rest of their lifestyle. So I think whatever it is, right, we're still looking for people with intention and that's going to align to your business because there's nothing worse than when you're in the busy season and things are booked, whatever it is, shifts are open, and then your summer hire is dead in the water. I mean, not actually dead in the water, but that would be a good book. That sounds like a good book, honestly. But
Dead in the
your
water.
your summer hire is leaving, right? Because you didn't hire right.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about some of the goals as we go into hiring. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is waiting and hiring too late and not having the optimal amount of time for training.
Yeah.
Because, when we're training during peak season, and
Yeah.
I experienced this over the winter. One of the hotels that I work with brought in winter work travel employees, and they literally came the week of Thanksgiving, I think. And we were
Fun.
already in the thick of it. And, we had people away on vacation. Some of our key
Mm-hmm.
players that did training were away on vacation, and they essentially got just thrown in. And, these are people that came, November, early December, and then stayed through the end of March. And, we pride ourselves in a really good work environment and a really good work experience, especially for, our seasonal workers that come to us, from other countries. And I really feel that they were set up for failure, that it was a really tough um environment, and a big part of it was that they got thrown in a busy period, and right from the get-go didn't get trained properly. It's
Right.
busy. We're not prepared, and you're throwing them in, like your ice cream scooper, right? It's too late when the line is 30 people deep and it's this poor kid's first day. And I scooped
Yeah.
ice cream for
Nobody
one summer, and that was not fun at all.
Nobody likes trial by fire, right?
Oh,
It's too much. It's too much chaos. And there's too much on the line, honestly. Like, whatever it is, if you're opening, right? You're opening your ice cream shop. Yeah, things might take a little while to get routine, but nobody wants like bad negative comments on the first opening weekend. That's not fun for anyone. So
no.
definitely hiring too late. I also think a big one is when you're hiring, not fully setting schedule expectations.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So it drives me nuts when an owner or someone is looking for someone for maybe specific shifts, and maybe that shift is every Saturday morning. And they don't say, I'm looking for every single Saturday morning.
Right.
You know, I think that sets people up for failure, especially if they have other jobs or other things going on. I mean, whatever it is your time, right? But I've seen it time and time again where people kind of skirt around the schedule, especially depending on the business, right? And the season, because sometimes they can be pretty long hours, right? As we go into
Right.
seasons.
Right.
But
Right.
when they skirt around it and they're like, maybe some weekends, but really it's you're going to work the weekends and then we will schedule you to have a weekend off. Yeah. But
Right.
majority of the weekends you would be working. That's the position we want. So I do
Exactly.
find it frustrating when people aren't upfront about the
Right.
scheduling.
Right. Yeah, and I think that sometimes, like there's some, mismanagement of, thinking, well, the person's like really nice, and, I don't want to lose them. So I'm not going to be like super honest about how busy it is, or that we require you to work every weekend. And then it's a surprise, and the
Yeah,
person is upset. They don't feel valued. You know what I mean? They just like feel hoodwinked, that they were tricked.
I love
And
that
that
word.
doesn't feel
Word.
good at all. That does not feel good at all. So, being open and honest in a kind way of like, this job requires and having a training checklist and, maybe cross training them, right, on other things. Like you throw someone into the front desk of a spa and, you don't train them the necessity of recommending home care. The estheticians
Right.
work hard, they set it out, and then you're wondering 3 weeks into it, "Hey, why aren't you, like, closing the sales on these products?" And they're like, "I wondered why they were there."
I wondered why. To sell them, baby, sell it.
So then let's talk about, so we're getting into summer, and I've seen this time and time again, and I have to be, like, really, mindful of paying attention, not just to myself, right? This is not just about ourselves and our burnout patterns, but paying attention to burnout patterns of your team. And, I've spent probably 100% of my career working
Yeah.
working in seasonal destinations or, vacation settings, even when I was on the Bahamas, right? It was a
Yeah.
exotic getaway. Most of the businesses I work with, are in some sort of a seasonal destination, whether it's down south, whether it's up here in New England. It doesn't matter. You have to, when you know it's a busy time, and I say this time and time again because I see providers and desk people and managers on the road to burnout, when it's busy and all hands need to be on deck, and it's our job to predict those burnout patterns and try to help people through and not get them to a place of burnout. So, maybe like we're in July and August, right? You're in July, it's peak season. You're heading into August, week 2 and 3, right? You're still running on adrenaline. Like, I've got this, I'm making the money, I'm working extra hours. Then you get to like week 4 to 6 of being all out, and you start to see call outs.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see some fatigue set in. You start to see short tempers. I am guilty of this as well. When I feel like I'm starting to edge towards a burnout and I know that I need to regroup, I notice that my temper starts to flare a little bit, that I don't hold my tongue as much as I like to when I'm in control, right? And
Yeah.
as a leader, you act surprised every year. My gosh, why is so and so calling out? Why did so and so not show up for their next shift? Burnout isn't random, it's a cycle. And it's a cycle that, we as leaders need to help break. And it's our jobs to be kind of the trampoline, right? The safety net for our employees. Because if you have an ice cream scooper that doesn't show up, she's just not showing up because you burnt her out. Now you're out an ice cream scooper and you're scooping the ice cream.
Yep.
And that contributes to your burnout.
Right.
So if you could protect these people a little bit from feeling overwhelmed, extra tired, burnt out, unappreciated, it's going to prevent you from having to scoop the ice cream the rest of the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like even during the summer, keeping up those touch points, right? Those one-on-ones, whatever you want to call them. I think that's still really important. That can give you a good pulse on what's going on. And also realizing that everybody has different limits, right? And getting to
Right.
know your employees, I think, is super important, even when they're there for a temporary basis, because you never know, you never know if they'll be coming back next year. Maybe you want them back, right? Or maybe they grow into something else, right? So just getting to know your employees, I feel like, is never a bad thing, right? It's never a
Right.
waste of
Right.
time.
Not at all. And then, so how do we prepare? if you don't have your Memorial Day prep checklist, you need to create one now.
All right. I don't have one.
So what do? Finalize schedules, take an inventory to see what you need. Make sure the inventory is stocked up for summer. Make sure that your team is trained and ready to roll. Make sure your menus and services there's no confusion. You've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. Don't be making changes. Trust me, do not make changes to your menu, whether it's your ice cream menu, unless it's a special feature, or your spa menu in August. Just like don't roll out a new menu right before holiday time. And last year we rolled out a new menu in August, and let me tell you, it was a nightmare. So, learn from the experiences of those of us that make good decisions, and sometimes decisions are out of our control, so we have to just roll with what is. Make sure that the leadership is visible, that people know who to go to, who's their supervisor, who should they go to if they need help, that they're not out there floundering on their own, that there are managers or supervisors that are in the trenches with them, checking on them, seeing how they're doing, and are visible support at all times. And what is your plan? And I'm still working on this. What is your plan for call outs? So many of us scramble, right? On a Saturday morning, at 6:55 a.m. What can we do to have a strategy to handle call outs?
I think that's all important. I love that Memorial Day checklist. Get it together before it runs you over like a bus. That's my tip. Don't get ran over by the bus.
That, a busy season isn't going to burn you out. It's the lack of planning that will. I encourage you to, MaryAnn will share our little checklist in the show notes. And I encourage you now in April, don't wait till the week before Memorial Day. I encourage you to have your plan set for the season, because if you're set up for success, then any little bumps in the road that come won't throw you completely over the cliff, right? You can handle them better if you're prepared. If you feel every other aspect has been thought through and prepared, then you're like, yeah, I can roll with the punches. I can handle this, because all the I's are dotted and you just forgot one T and you got to cross that. So let us know how we can help going into this busy season.
Yes. And next week we are going to change gears a little bit. Next week, we're going to be talking about some community involvement. I think it's a perfect time to talk about, personally, some of the passion projects that we're involved in, and kind of how getting involved in the community has both benefited both of us. And then also, as we go through summer, let us know what you want us to hear about. We'll visit some of our favorite topics. Definitely some scheduling, some how we're handling all of our to-do lists, and maybe some morning routines, because I think, Julie, maybe your morning routine has changed a little bit, and our evening routines. But keep us posted on what you want to hear about this summer, and let's get at it. Let's lock in, as the youth say, and get ready.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm locking in. I'm getting there. Putting the locks on.
All right, let's lock in, and we'll see you here live next week. Same place, same time. Hopefully we have better connections, but any way you look at it, we'll see you here next time live in the Spa Hive with my business bestie. Goodbye, MaryAnn.
Bye, Julie. Bye, listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us today in the Spa Hive.
If this episode sparked an idea, made you think differently, or just made you feel a little less alone in business or life, share it with someone who might need it too.
Don't forget to follow the podcast so you never miss a conversation.
And check out the show notes for links, resources, and ways to stay connected with us, including the Spa 101 course taught by our very own Julie Pinky.
We're so grateful you're part of this community.
And we'll see you next time.